Hello, and welcome to the Overflow podcast. My name is Craig Booker. In this episode, we'll be talking about trying versus training, but it's on The Power to Change by Greg Rochelle. This is all from his book. Okay. I am taking this and kind of adding stuff to it that applies to mental health, but it's all inspired by his work. I want to make sure and give him credit for that. All right. So, past weeks we've been talking about last week we talked about goals and establishing goals and the real importance about having goals. In here in the notes I talked about going through a quick review on why goals are important. Goals give us direction and they give us inspiration, right? We need direction where to focus our efforts. We also need to be inspired about what we're doing. So just like Paul, we must realize that having a goal is not enough. We need to define our win. Like I was saying, we need to know what it looks like when we're being successful. So uh, it it doesn't necessarily mean that that is like the finish line and it's over, but that means we know we're doing well in that particular area. So this week we are kind of taking that a step further, and the title is trying versus training. Okay, and we'll go into detail here about what the differences are between the two. The first question: what do winners do differently? The people that are succeeding, that in whatever area, whether it's leading their family, maybe it's in their business, maybe it's in other relationships. What are they doing differently that works, right? So this quote is from Craig Rochelle. He says, "Winners don't try, they train." Another quote from Pastor Craig's book: "Defining your win is how you begin, like it's the starting point." And we say, remember, defining the win is not how you win, but how you begin. The question is, how do we win? And his whole thing is we stop trying. And when I read over that about like stop trying, I'm like, okay, like I'm not going to quit. But what he is saying is that we don't go about change or what we're trying to do by trying. We're going at this in a different approach. And why? It's because trying doesn't work. If you look back at all the things you've tried to do and failed, most likely you failed because you were trying and not training. Craig Rochelle says trying is an attempt to do the right thing by exerting effort in the moment. So let's stop there again because it's really important that we understand the differences here. Trying is an attempt to do the right thing by exerting effort in the moment. If you think about, significant things in history and people that made a really big impact in history, they didn't just show up in the moment and try really hard. No matter who it is, they at some point, maybe they didn't have this whole concept of training, but they had some really intentional effort over time, and it just didn't happen overnight. And it wasn't just all of a sudden I tried really hard. If we want to create lasting change, we need to switch from trying to training. So it's a mindset shift about how we're going to go about change. When we're talking about mental health struggles, if you struggle with mental health or someone else and desire positive change in your life, you will not get there simply by trying hard. Let me tell you, it won't work. Trying hard is not enough. When it comes to our mental health, it requires more. So, most likely, you've already kind of taken that approach and were disappointed with the results if it were you. Or if it were a friend, you've probably seen them try really hard to make a positive change in their mental health and they just fail and come up frustrated. If we keep working to implement change in this way, just trying really hard, you're likely to end up depressed and defeated. If you want different results, it will require intentional and deliberate practice over time. So you can call it what you want, but this is the type of approach that's going to yield results. It's going to yield fruit for you. This approach is really important. I don't want to move too fast through that, but we also need to realize that we need more power. I would like to also note that just because you're intentional and practice deliberately over a set period of time, it doesn't mean you're going to succeed at this. And you may be saying, Craig, you just told me that if I switch from just trying real hard to training, then I will have like positive impact on whatever I'm trying to do. And you will, right? But a lot of times just doing that, just relying on your own human effort is not enough. So changes to our mental health and often involve trauma and other factors that I kind of talk about. I call them layers, right? It involves other things. So relying only on human power alone, whether you're trying or training, often leads to defeat. Okay, so I've introduced this new concept of, okay, we're going to train instead of try, right? We're going to intentionally do something over time, trying to get better and better at something to have a positive impact or a positive change in our life. But we also need to realize that we can't do that alone in only our human power. We are going to need a power that's greater than us. We're going to need to go to God, right? And seek God as well while we're doing our training. So we must learn to acknowledge our limitations and understand the power that is available to us today. The reality for us as humans is that our human power is limited and quickly dries up. We run out, we get tired, we get exhausted, we get frustrated, and we run out of motivation. And that's why we also need to seek God for power that we don't have. So I want to read this. It's Ephesians 1, chapter 1, verse 19 and 20. And in the NLT, it says, I also pray that you will understand the incredible greatness of God's power for us who believe in him. This is the same mighty power that raised Christ from the dead and seated him in the place of honor at God's right hand in the heavenly realms. We're going to need to approach this differently. We're going to need to shift our approach from just trying really hard to a training approach, but we're also going to need to seek God for help, for his power. So we're going to dig into this in more detail later in future lessons. What I pray for you guys and for anyone listening to this is that you'll understand the incredible greatness of God's power for us who believe in him. If you understand the power that's available to you, you can realize that anything is possible with God. If we take this different approach and we're seeking God for power, for the strength to do this and keep going, it can yield positive results. All right, so I talk about a training mentality. No one in history accomplished anything great just because they try real hard. In one way or another, they were intentional, much like an athlete goes into training to prepare for a competition. All right, so 1 Corinthians 9:25 in the NIV, everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. And then 1 Corinthians 9:26 through 27 in the New Living Translation says, so I run with purpose in every step. I am not just shadow boxing. I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should. Otherwise, I fear that after preaching to others, I myself might be disqualified. This is Paul speaking, and you can see his approach. He acknowledges the need for training. All right. And the next section, I talk about these Greek definitions of discipline. This is coming from Pastor Craig Groeschel's book, The Power to Change. And it says the word translated discipline is the Greek word hypopiazo, literally meaning to hit under the eye. Paul chose an intense word to declare that he would do whatever it took to win. And then the word training, this is also from Pastor Craig Groeschel's book. It says, Paul continued training his body to do what it should. The word training is from the Greek doulagogo. I may have got that wrong, which means to enslave. All right. Also says Paul entered into a life of training and encouraged others to do the same. He told his ministry apprentice Timothy, train yourself to be godly. 1 Timothy 4:7. All right. Another alternative definition for training that Craig Groeschel gave it in his book is training is doing today what you can do today so you can do tomorrow what you can't do today, right? So we're going to do today what we can do today so that tomorrow we'll do what we can't do right now, today. Another quote is, I do today what I can do today through strategic habits. We're going to set up strategic habits that help us get to where we're wanting to go. All right. So a big point that Pastor Craig brings up, it's important to kind of reflect on this, is, can trying prevent relying on God? Like if we're just trying, we're relying on our own strength, is that going to prevent us from relying on God? Here's a quote from his book, is, as I have lived this, I've wondered if another more subtle distinction is that trying can prevent relying. When I try, I do what I can in my strength. Trying can keep me from allowing God to give me his strength so that he can do in and through me what I cannot. All right, so another quote from his book, by trying, I may be unintentionally denying God's gracious offer to make his power perfect in my weakness. 2 Corinthians 12:9. By training, we're going to invite God into the process, and we're going to be intentional. We're going to set up strategic habits that help us get there, and we're going to be relying on God's power, not just human power. So there's an exercise here, and we don't have to do it now. We're just going to go over it real quick, but it asks people to write down, like, what have you tried to change in the past but failed at, like, and to list those things at. And then what are some strategic habits you could implement through training? Okay, so we're acknowledging things that we've tried to do in the past but somehow failed to do them. And then we're looking at strategic habits that would help us maybe achieve that goal. Here's the example that was given in Craig Groeschel's book. It's to forgive someone who hurt you. That is the goal. We're going to write out verses Jesus taught on forgiveness. We're going to also write out offenses God or others has forgiven you for. So we're going to write out what Jesus taught about forgiveness. And then we're going to also, as a second part, we're going to write out things that we've potentially done that have offended other people or hurt other people that either God or other people has forgiven us for. That's just an example of how we might go about learning to forgive someone who hurt us. Okay. So that was the overall goal, and the way we might have a strategic habit or an exercise that helps us to forgive that person that hurt us. It's the same way no matter what we're doing, whether it's me wanting to write a book or become a writer. I'm going to, in private every day or on a schedule, I'm going to put in time to become a better writer. And when I decide to publish a book, that's going to be the public view of what or the public result of what I've done day after day in private. They don't always see the struggle of, I'm exhausted, I have no more energy, I don't want to do this. God, help me, give me that power to keep going, to be disciplined. They don't see them seeking God and saying, I need your help to keep moving forward. And that's what we're bringing to light in this lesson. So here's our recap of the lesson. We're saying that trying doesn't work. Training does. Trying is an attempt to do the right thing by exerting effort in the moment. Training is a commitment to strategic habits you do before the moment that equip you to do the right thing in the moment. The passage of scripture here is 1 Corinthians 9:25 through 27 in the New Living Translation. All athletes are disciplined in their training. They do it to win a prize that will fade away, but we do it for an eternal prize. So I run with purpose in every step. I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should. That's all for this episode. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, give us a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes.